Time trials are the purest form of road cycling. No team tactics, just you, your bike, and the route, and a time to beat. After the Stage 9 summit finish, the general classification was shaken up. Nairo Quintana now sits in first overall, but the whole top 10 is within 3 minutes of him. Today's time trial is 40 kilometers long, and with 500 meters of climbing, it certainly isn't flat. Quintana's fans are hoping that it'll be enough for him to stay in pink at the end of the day, seeing he is notoriously bad at time trials, and it'll take everything he has to stay in the Maglia Rosa. There is, of course, the race for the stage win, where riders like Vasyl Kirienka are competing, but today we're focusing on just 4 contenders. First, Geraint Thomas. Stage 9 was not kind to the Welshman, who hit the ground due to the moto incident, and he ended up losing over 5 minutes. And Thomas has 2 goals for the day: see where he's at following the crash, and if it's a good place, regain as much time as he can. Thomas is a great time trial rider, and as he comes through the first time check, he proves it with a new fastest time. Has the rest day brought him back to full strength already? There's still the hilliest part of the course yet to go, so we'll have to see. 22 minutes in, and as the climbs begin, Thomas has nearly caught his Minuteman, the rider who started ahead of him in the time trial. Universally a sign that you are on a very, very good ride. The 13 riders after Thomas on the start list is Bauke Mollema. Mollema had a great, almost surprising ride on stage 9, hanging on to Dumoulin and Pinot as long as he could, earning himself his current spot of 4th overall, just 51 seconds behind Quintana. Mollema may be a B+ contender, but that doesn't mean a podium in Milan is out of the question in any way, and a good day here could get him on those final steps. Off camera, during a commercial break, Geraint Thomas has set the fastest time through the second time check, and he is on an absolute tear. Will it hold to the finish? And will it be enough to move back up the GC? And more immediately, can he win today's stage? Resplendent in the colors of the Dutch flag as the national time trial champion is Tom Dumoulin. All eyes are on him. Time trials are his world. He won last year's opening time trial, and he can repeat here. We all are aware that he's also going to gain time on the GC contenders, and presumably wind up in the Maglia Rosa. That's not truly up for debate. What is up for debate is what the time gaps will end up being. Nairo Quintana is using the last few minutes before his start to warm up. Hidden behind the massive visor are thoughts we will never be privy to, but you can't help but wonder if it's a resigned doom. Another national champion takes a start. Thibaut Pinot, everyone's favorite Frenchman, in the tricolor, is ready to fight to stay on the podium. The clock ticks down. The fingers close. Time to go. Ahead, Dumoulin is flying around corners, using every inch of the road, going as fast as a motorbikes can. In the start house, is ready to face his toughest challenge of the Giro thus far. Aero socks are done up to the knees. The timer counts down, and everyone is now on the road. It is now only a matter of time. With only the eye test to speak of, Quintana doesn't look as fast through the corners. Perhaps he's just a little nervous to risk it all after the first few kilometers today. From the helicopter, we watch Pinot, and it's important to note that he has beaten Dumoulin before, on a style of course similar to today's, back at last year's Tour de Romandie. This could be a day for the upset. Dumoulin is churning a massive gear, pushing out immense power. Meanwhile, Thomas approaches the finish line. We wait for the timing to pop up, and he's going to smash the fastest time, finishing at 51 minutes and 26 seconds, a complete change of fortunes from 2 days ago. It is now time for him to sit, wait, and see if the time will fall. Quintana's turn to get a time check. It's bad. Very, very bad. 48 seconds have evaporated in just 9.8 kilometers of racing so far. What this means is that right now, on the road, Tom Dumoulin is the virtual Maglia Rosa. Quintana needs to fight for every second, keep the gap manageable before the return to the mountains. Dumoulin, meanwhile, even on the hills here, Quintana just doesn't look like himself. The comfort disappears as soon as aero bars are put on his bike. At time check 2, we finally see Bauke Mollema again, and he's doing just what he needs to in order to stay in that top 5, sitting in at 8th at that time check. His form isn't great, there's a lot of unnecessary movement in the upper shoulders, but as long as it's better than some other guys, it'll be enough. Dumoulin is locked on, the perfect time trialist position, and he's destroying Thomas's time at checkpoint 2. The big gear is still churning, and the lead is over 36 seconds. Pinot's turn. The time loss is 1 minute and 42. We wait for Quintana. It's over 2 minutes that Quintana will lose today. The amount of work you'll need to do in the mountains before Milan is growing to astronomical levels. Now, we have to go to the finish to see where everyone lands. Mollema will come in first out of the last few riders, slaloming his way through the final corners, finishing, for now, in a solid 10th, a minute 28 down from Thomas, and it should keep him in the top 5 overall. Dumoulin now, and he is going to ruin Thomas's day. Dumoulin is 49 seconds faster. The stage victory is his, and the Maglia Rosa will be 2. How much time will Pinot and Quintana lose? For Pinot, 2 minutes and 42 seconds. For Quintana, 2 minutes and 53. A disaster. Dumoulin will get to wear pink for a few days at minimum here on week 2. All eyes are on Quintana and Pinot. How will they claw back the time? We have to keep going to find out. For the first time in 3 days, the riders sign in for a mass start stage, starting in Firenze. It's a middle mountain stage with 2 category 3 and 2 climbs on deck. A perfect opportunity for a large breakaway to get a win. It's also Dumoulin's first day defending pink, with under 25 kilometers to go. In this group, though, is Adam Yates, still recovering from the Stage 9 crash. Bob Jungels is here too, wearing the Best Young Riders jersey. He had a brilliant time trial yesterday, which catapulted him up into 6th overall, and he's proving he could be one for the future. Of course, Pinot needs to gain back some time, and so, with 500 meters to the top, he attacks. Nibali is the first to follow, Dumoulin behind. There's a very long descent down to the finish, something Pinot isn't great at, but he's attacking the climb with little concern for the future. The rest of the contenders are chasing, sure, but absolutely not as fast as they could be. It's now time to descend. The other thing to note here is they aren't leading the stage. That would be Team Dimension Data's Omar Freire. He was part of a 25-man breakaway, and then attacked over the top of the last climb to have this gap on the descent. But Pierre Rolland has already joined him, the French hero, a former stage winner on Alpe d'Huez. Behind, Pinot still has a few seconds in hand over the pink jersey group. Everyone here, in the break and in the Maglia Rosa group, is flying down the descent. It's officially only 17 seconds between Freire, Rolland, and the chasing remnants of the breakaway, with about 10 men strong. With 13.5 kilometers to go, former world champion Rui Costa takes matters into his own hands. He attacks from the second group on the road, determined to close the gap and make the leading duo into a trio. He gets there with 9 kilometers left to race. 1.6 kilometers to go. We're in dangerous territory for our leaders. They're beginning to play cat and mouse, refusing to be the one who pulls them up to the finish line doing all the work. This would be less stressful if there weren't only 11 seconds to the chasing group. And Astana's Tanel Canguer has also just bridged the gap and is now a quartet. 500 meters to go. It's Canguer, Rolland, Costa, and Freire. And coming around the corner is the entire chase group. They start sprinting to close the last gap. 350 to go. From fourth wheel, Freire goes. Costa follows, Rolland sprints, but it's Omar Freire pulling away, eking out a gap, and he takes home the biggest win of his career in an incredible ride. At the end of the day, Despite Pinot's moves, there were no significant GC time gaps either, and there won't be for a few more days. Today is the longest stage of the Giro, with a massive 229 kilometers on tap for a day that will be for the sprinters. The main trio of sprint contenders are still here: Gaviria, Ewan, and Greipel. Gaviria is still in the Purple Points leader's jersey. On a long day like this, in the middle of a grand tour, usually nothing of significance happens, and that's the case today. So much so, in fact, that we can hop all the way ahead to the final kilometer. Bora Hansgrohe has control of the front, hoping that finally, their continuous good positioning thus far will finally result in a Sam Bennett stage win. We can also see the jerseys of Orica and Quickstep soaring in the front. A slight left-hand bend, and we can see from this view that Ewan, Greipel, and maybe even Gaviria are a bit far back, particularly Greipel, but only for a moment. Lado's lead-out man pulls Greipel right alongside the Bora train, an incredible move, sliding him right behind Bennett. Gaviria's lead-out man, Richeze, is there as well, and of course Gaviria is latched on. It's a left-hander with 300 meters to go. Greipel's great position has somehow already evaporated. It's a drag race now between Bora and Quickstep. 200 meters left. Bennett has to go first. His lead-out is cooked, but Richeze isn't. He sprints, leading out Gaviria all the way to 100 meters to go, and all he has to do is finish the job. Fernando Gaviria has now won a hat-trick of stages at the 2017 Giro, and tomorrow, he can make it 4. For all intents and purposes, this is the last stage where the sprinters have a chance to win. It's expected that some sprinters may drop out of the race entirely after today in order to recover and prep for the Tour de France. So for the fans of this aspect of the race, today is the finale. The biggest news at the start is that Geraint Thomas has abandoned the race, unable to recover from injuries from the crash on stage 9. It's become a case of surviving instead of racing for him, and now he'll take the time to recover and prepare for the Tour de France, where he'll be working to help Chris Froome win a 4th. As is now customary for our review of most of these sprint stages, it's time to jump ahead. 800 meters to go. The Bora lead-out train is once again in a great position. Next to them is Lotto, and then Quickstep, Gaviria, Greipel, and Bennett are all up here, as is Caleb Ewan, somewhere in this churn beginning at the front. Then, a crack in Bora's lead-out. The pace increases too quickly, and a gap forms. This ends up being less critical than it could have been, because at 250 meters to go, it's chaos. No one is following their own lead-out man. Gaviria is so far back now, and it looks like it might finally be Bennett's day. As he moves to the left around his lead-out, Caleb Ewan tries to go around the Quickstep lead-out, and quickly finds himself with nowhere to go. Where there is space is the right side of the road, just enough between the riders and the barriers for someone with guts to take advantage of. Gaviria has guts. He seizes the gap, Ayrton Senna-esque, and in the blink of an eye is alongside Sam Bennett, then gets ahead and wins stage 13. With all the sprint stages done and dusted, Gaviria has become king. In the next episode, the race fully turns over to the GC contenders.